Hey, quick question. Who said it first? Because this is critical information. If we know that calling Paleface a devil is more emphasized with Muslims, the reason I'm posing this question is because I don't want to seem as if I'm somebody who, is, well, everybody knows I'm not racist. I'm not prejudiced or anything. I don't really care about any of that shit. All that stuff is a facade. That's all bullshit masonry to keep people like emotional and dumb. But what I will say is, I just had that motherfucker too. What I will say is, it has been spoken.
But this brings up an important truth. No prophet is acceptable in his hometown.
Because a lot of times you give out information for years, and the main people using it are the frauds. It's the people that you shouldn't be listening to, but you gave them so much attention that you actually believe them. And that's actually fine to me. I don't really give a fuck. There are a lot of people that they're not going to be happy at the end of their days. You're going to do a lot of running around and BSing with a lot of stuff that you can't take with you. And then you're going to have to come to the realization that people were like talking to you the whole time and you were just fucking up, not listening. And then you're just going to have to deal with it at the end. But who came first? Let's look up the 120s. Let's look at the 120s and let's see what we get. Hold up. Okay. The 120 lessons, Supreme Wisdom, were initially created by Elijah Muhammad and Farad Muhammad, the founders of the Nation of Islam, as part of their teaching practices during the 1930s in Detroit. The lessons are considered scarce texts within the Nation of Islam, guiding members through knowledge and discipline. A paperback version, Supreme 120 Lessons, was published on November 29th, 2013. So the Supreme Lessons, its knowledge only goes back to the 30s. Now you could say Farad came with it. This is the main reason I'm bringing it up. You could say Farad came with it, and that's fine. But the thing is, they're the ones talking about the four devils. And they're the ones talking about how they had to send this devil off for 50 years to study, to come back and all this. So, okay, when did they come with those lessons? 1930s. Farad can only go so far back if he's in the 1930s living. Okay. Does anybody know who Robert Rogers is? I don't know if people have done that much study. But anyway, on the evening of September 13th, 1759, Major Robert Rogers and 220 hand-picked rangers climbed into 17 whaleboats and rowed across the planked waters of Lake Champlain. The night was dark, and only a scattering of stars with only a scattering star. Sorry. A dozen men in each boat worked the oars into relays, propelling the boats through the inky water. Each man had time to reflect on the mission and weighs its overall chance of success. Let's skip down to the raids. The raid was a brainchild of Rogers, an American frontiersman who was born in New Hampshire. He was raised in the borderlands of the wilderness. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I'm only bringing this up because this guy was like a real piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? He did the Indians really foul. And this was a battle between the French. I can't say this guy's name. St. Francis. Let's just leave it at that. So anyway. Where are we at? I have to make this big so you guys can read it. So, of course, you guys know me, being Nipmuc, of course I'm going to bring this up. Metacomet War. Tensions over land and independence accumulated in Metacomet's War, a.k.a. King Philip's War, which devastated both European and Native American communities and infested hostility towards Native peoples. Robert Rogers, see, already brought it up, known as the White Devil, gained the nickname for his raids during the colonial wars, showcasing precipitation of some European leaders by Native Americans. I don't even know why I said that. I made up a word. Or I added a word. It's perception. My bad. So, in summary, while the label devil was not a common descriptor of all white people among Native Americans, it's likely a cross from a combination of isolated incidents of negative interactions, mistranslations, cultural clashes, and the devastating impact of colonization, particularly concerning land, disease, and forced assimilation. Makes sense, right? You know what I'm saying? Somebody come to your shit and they're not respecting your stuff and they're like forcing you to be like them, but they also came sick. They had some fucking diseases with them and stuff. And it's like, these people are like, who are you guys? Like, we never asked you to come over here. We never asked you to have to deal with you. So, since we're on an Aboriginal mission, if you are awake, maybe you're on some other. I got so many conversations I want to talk about with actual people, but I got to word it correctly just because. But anyway, since we're on this mission, I have an important question to ask. Who told us they were devils first? See, a lot of that Muslim stuff is going off the backbone of people who went through it, but it's being illustrated by somebody who didn't. I'm not knocking Elijah Muhammad. I'm not knocking him. What I'm saying is Elijah is raised up. He's only been to the third grade. We already know what the masonry is. And we can tell by how he holds his stance, the way he props his feet. We know he's a mason. Okay. But who raised him up? Farad did. All this stuff comes out in the 1930s. We know the Farad story. We know DW4. We know all that different stuff. That's not the point. The point is, why was he telling this information about devils to this particular group? Why? And why would later on, Muslim or not, they would have another member come out and say that we are Aborigines? My people didn't call these people demons or devils because of like ghost stories. They were talking about actual things that were taking place. Elijah Muhammad and the Muslims were talking about stuff that was actually taking place. But what I'm asking is, who told us this information first? because technically it's not even Aboriginals or Muslims, it's science. Science pretty much told the truth. And here's another thing. I'm not talking about like Europeans of the day. This has nothing to do with you guys. This has to do with the past. The Aboriginals told us who the devil was first. And they didn't have they weren't going off a notion of storytelling. They were actually dealing with trial and error, things that were actually happening around them. If I was to tell you that people that claim to have your back, that are another race, some of them don't have your back, and they're setting you up. Now, is that all? No. That's like me saying all melanated beings are like righteous, super magic. No, I'm not doing that. What I'm going to say is this. It was the Aboriginals who said it first. Because this Robert Rogers is in 1750s. Muslims don't hit the scene in America until the 1930s. Unless you want to go with the Noble Drew Ali, you're still in the 1900s. You're not going any further than that. Now, if you want to talk about was Islam or Muslims or Moors in America before that time, yeah, you got Elzer Willock. So it's like you're going to have to deal with him first. This is not a racist video. This is one of them videos where it's like, by intent, he's saying these people were dirty. George Washington is not till 1776. Even if he's in a war, you notice we're not talking about George Washington being some great murder. We talk about Andrew Jackson. Yes, and this Robert Rogers, this motherfucker, and then Robert Lee and all that. But for him to be 1759 and Aboriginals, or whatever you want to call it, were already calling this out. Like they were like, yo, this is like a pig taker, like a greedy person. This is like a devil. How do you look at them treaties now? And then who told you the story? Remember, history is written by the winners. So it's like, they're talking about miscommunication. How do you have miscommunication with you stealing somebody's stuff? Okay, now get out of that and fast forward to today, and let's talk about discoveries, inventions, history. I'm not saying other people haven't brought it up. I'm asking, who told us they was the devil first? Who said it? And then when you think about the original people over here that had more of the land, that were ruling all the farms and the plantations and stuff, you know what paleface that is, and you know the difference. You know the difference. So it's like, it couldn't be, the and I'm not saying the Northerner, because remember, we had beef with them too. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, it couldn't be the ones that are around today that are pushing for locking up criminals, deporting fucking terrorists and illegals, and wanting kids not, to know there's only two genders. It couldn't be those people. The agenda's not there. You know what I'm saying? The agenda's not there. They're pushing for a bunch of stuff that you should be with. It's like, so I say this in an allegorical sense. If you have third eye vision, if you can see, then you should know who are the devils. You don't have to call them white anymore, because that is a status, first of all, and that has nothing to do with bad. So you ain't even got to call them white. You can just call them devils. All right, cool. You guys should know who they are. You guys should be able to differentiate. The people that are telling you the weirdest stuff and wanting you to do things that are against the grain, they're going against the higher council of higher thought. Hey, I didn't make history. I just, just go through it with y'all. I'm just going through it with y'all myself. Just figuring this stuff out. And I'm here to tell you, if the Muslims that were over here were connected with the Klan, and so is the Pan-Africans, they got votes from these people, and they pretty much led you just into racism and arguing instead of observing things, which some people do. I'm not saying that there's not Muslims that don't, and I'm not saying that there's not other groups that don't. But I'm saying it seems like the originators of that quote, I would pretty much say it was the Aboriginals. I'd say it was the American Indians. They're the ones who pretty much coined that in people's heads. So if you're going to allow people to like laugh at you, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, they're the devil, or this motherfucker's the devil, and they're like, haha, that thing is a joke. It's like, I don't know if you can really say that if the people that use that terminology really did get ramshacked. They really did go through some problems. They really did go through wars and bloodshed and sickness and all different types of stuff. I think their story is more credible than 10 quadrillion years ago, and people with two brains, and it's like, I don't know. That's all in the lessons. The same ones who were telling you about the four devils. So it's like, that's where I'm getting at this stuff. I'm like, yo, one is fantasy and one really lived it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, they're really talking about it. So think of that when people are bringing this information to you. It's like, why do these, we'll call them, Aboriginals, but more of the Negro featured ones, why do they know more information about real stuff that happened here opposed to a bunch of fantasy folklore stories? Why, when you talk to a Native American, why are you going to get a bunch of folklore? They don't have any history. Like, they don't know anything that took place here. They don't know anything about 1704 in Virginia. They don't know anything. Like, they just don't know anything. They never talk about stuff like that. They never talk about real stuff that came here. They never talk about El Negro. They don't. I don't never hear them, unless they're a woodland Indian. You'll never hear these people talk about the King Philip War, Metacomet. They don't talk about that. All they talk about is hi-ya-ya and my land, my people, and running moon and sitting bird. And it's like, the American Indian Wars lasted from 1942 to 1924. That doesn't seem like somebody who's just all peace and just check. That seems like somebody who about their business, because that's a long war. So I'm saying that to say this. A devil is a deceiver. Okay? Now you can go through your whole life and paint with a broad brush that everybody that has a certain pigment is a devil. That's not going to work. And it's not going to work in this time. There's the elite around, guys. There's no more colonizers. We're not dealing with colonizers. You're dealing with some real crepid, wicked, fucking gematria making up, Illuminati, playing card having, like, bro, they've been on. This is the elite I'm talking about. These are your devils of today. You know what I'm saying? Now, maybe some of them may have white skin, but some of them going to have black skin. Some of them going to have brown skin. Some of them going to have red skin. Some of them going to have buttermilk yellow skin. It's like, bro, this is not when this shit started. You know what I'm saying? Whether you want to call us Negroes or Indians, it doesn't matter. When this shit first started, there's only two on the turf. Because you see what happened to them conquistadors. They got kicked out the South. They got kicked out the South. You know what I'm saying? Like, facts. But when you even talk about the South, nowadays you got a lot of Hispanics down there. But when you even talk about the South, you're strictly talking about black and white people. They don't even talk about these Indians because they like, they killed it all off. No, they're not. You call them niggas now. But whatever. Y'all can't do that battle no more. That's why I always tell my brothers, it says, let's not just beefing with Mr. Charlie. You better look at everybody. You can't use that no more. It was just you two that integrated, remember? Then everybody else gets off the boat. The Irish and the Italians had to become white. Mexicans hiding, claiming they white. Doing goddamn shit. You don't shut the fuck up. Like you just weird. You know what I'm saying? Shit. It's Asian people that try to sneak in and call themselves white. It's like, bro, y'all are weird. You're snitching on yourselves. You're letting us know its status. It ain't got nothing to do with no fucking color. Or I'm sorry, it ain't got nothing to do with no race. Because ain't no way no Chinaman and no damn Mexican and a fucking Italian all the same Anglo-Saxon. That's impossible. We're not gonna play this dumb game. So y'all mixing and morphing, but you're not even mixing. You fucking classifying people. Bingo! How you turn an Irish man white when y'all used to hang them? How you turn an Italian white when you used to hang them? Classification. Okay, so how do you turn an Indian into a Negro? How do you turn an Indian into a colored? And then them two become black people. Classification. So, you know, the reclassification of my people goes on and on and on. There's so many different names called. That's why still to this day there's so many different names called, because clearly you're talking about the same people. But I say that to say this. It was the Americans. It was the original Americans who called out the beast. They called them out. Now everybody else talk about Egypt and this white snake, and y'all don't even understand the allegory in that. Like, bro, Anubis or what? I mean, Oob. I forgot the fucking snake's name, but it's like, bro, that doesn't. Stop listening to Brother Jabari. He's making up his own fucking fantasy. No, that's allegory. That has really to do with you, like, watching out for people trying to deceive you. It's like, that's really what that story is about. It's not talking about no fucking white man. Shit, there ain't no fucking white man when that story comes out. They don't exist. White people don't exist. To the late 1600s, you guys know that. But I'm saying, they're the main ones on the earth. Without a fantasy book. See, everybody else calling out that group as the devil off of the book. They're going off the book, but see, you're going to crash and burn with that, because remember, God don't ever kill the devil in the book. So that biblical devil can't be the one that the Native Americans was describing. I'm sorry, the Aboriginals was describing. They can't be. The Aboriginal people, when they're talking about these devils, they cannot be talking about this book, because the book don't do anything. I don't believe you should burn a Bible, a Quran, or anything like that. I just don't disrespect people shit like that. But if you fucking push the table and that motherfucker hit the ground, don't expect lightning and thunder to come out of it. If it just so happens you holding on the edge of a boat and the boat fucking bounced and you drop the book and the shark eat it and shit, don't think that you're going to, you know what I'm saying, Jonah's going to pop up out of the way. What the fuck you doing? You tripping? No. But when the Aboriginals got around these people and they gave them their information, we start reading about their God and their devil. Always remember, the original Masons on Earth are the Americans. We didn't need none of that shit. These are their stories about, oh, we were so fascinated about what the Europeans had in trade and shit. What? Seawater and biscuits? What they come with? Some guns. We'll give them that. We'll give them that. We was fascinated by those. We damn sure fascinated by them shotguns, player. And muskets and shit. Yeah, we like those. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, when it first started, it's like they were starving. So a starving people that were sick wouldn't be looking for no desolate land. There had to be something there, right? So in the beginning, we taught them more than they taught us. So we get their book. We read it. And the descriptions of this thing we gave to them. Which makes sense, though. Like, you don't have to be on either side. Just reverse the story. Just reverse the story. Bunch of Indians from America go to Europe during the Queen Victoria era, when, you know, everything broke, pestilence and stuff. And they fucking enslave you and take your land and all this, like, but this is your stuff. Now, I can hear people already. They're like, shit, you telling the Moore story. Okay, but I'm not saying it from America. But they wouldn't like that shit. They wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Let's be fair. They wouldn't like that shit. So, I said it to say this. It looks like, to me, that the Muslims and even some of the Christian stuff is kind of copying the Americans. It's kind of copying the Aboriginal stuff. Because they took it from your fantasy and showed it reality. And look at it now. Were they lying? Were they wrong? That's why I look at the treaty sideways. I'm like, bro, these weren't no good deals, bro. It ain't no Indian giver, no. They called you a fat taker. They said you're greedy people. You want more than you need. You wanted everything. Took everything. Can't beat them with bloodshed. You can't. You can only beat them with unification and proper education on more of merit base. I'm not talking about their schools. I'm talking about like through your principles, through your disciplines, your structure, your orders, your mores. My people need good morals. They need good moral standards again. That way they can do good business with each other and there's not so much foul play. And then also it would help if we start regurgitating the same like foolish DNA. That would help a little bit. Y'all do what you want with it. Peace and love. Goes.